Sasha, you may begin.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for coming. Welcome to our seminar. This marks the continuation of an amazing partnership between Joe Elliott's Catalyst Collective, which provides mentoring to unlock next generation's connection to identity, purpose, and belonging, and my company, Ivy Scholars, which helps high school students build candidacy and apply to college. Joe, thank you so much for inviting us. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the sixth in a series of monthly seminars to prepare both mentorship communities to teach 12 to 18-year-olds about critical topics in higher education. And I've got quite a few topics for you today. But before we get started, my name is Sasha Chana, and I'm the CEO of our company, Ivy Scholars. I lead a team of 20, working with a few hundred students per year. We've helped about 3,500 students since I founded the company just under a decade ago, after graduating from the Johns Hopkins University. Over 90% of those students were accepted to one of their reach schools, and 100% made it into their target schools. 10% of our revenue goes to our nonprofit, Laurel Scholars, which works with low-income students from Texas, California, New York, and New Jersey, as well as refugees from Afghanistan, Bangladesh, and Ukraine. On a personal level, I love helping children find a path to awaken their intellectual vitality and leadership characteristics, then demonstrate those on their college applications. At Ivy Scholars, we take everything I discussed in this presentation, combine it with expert mentorship and project management, and mentor high school students so they have amazing stories to tell. Now that we know who everyone is, let's talk about our journey for today. We're going to be talking about decision-making for seniors. Which college do you go to and when? We'll also talk about dealing with rejection and waitlisting, as well as last-minute tips for financial aid and searching for scholarships. For those of you who have not yet started the college application cycle, I want to talk about how to make the most of your college visits, including how to demonstrate interest, as well as about your last chances at summer programs for 2024, about AP exam prep for the upcoming AP exams in 6 weeks, and about the Ivy Scholars scholarships we've got for students of Catalyst Collective. So let's take it away. If you're a senior or the parent of a senior in high school, here's what you need to know. May 1st is the deadline to matriculate, to choose which university you're going to attend. Now, a special exception this year, because FAFSA, the Federal Student Aid Portal, has been delayed in its rollout of its new website, many universities have pushed back the May 1st matriculation deadline to June 1st. Nonetheless, it's important never to assume this. If you've got any doubt at all, you should either call the university's admissions office or look at publicly released announcements to see if they'd pushed back their deadline. For universities that haven't pushed back the deadline, and for all future years, expect May 1st to be the one solid number. By May 1st, if you plan to attend the university you've applied to, you must make a deposit. This is generally in an amount close to $500, and it's often waived if you're receiving financial aid. May 1st is also the time you need to start notifying universities that you're not planning on attending them. If you applied to multiple universities and were accepted to multiple and have only one you're attending, by May 1st, over the next 5 weeks, is the time to say thanks, but no thanks. Now, when it comes to making decisions about how you're going to spend your time on campus, my advice is this. Pick the university you want to matriculate as early as possible, ideally even earlier than May 1st, the deadline. Apply for housing early because the good rooms fill up fast. As you can see from the chart on the right, a good 90% of students at major state schools, UCLA, UT Austin, Texas A&M, will choose to live on campus, and there's definitely variance in qualities of rooms. It's important to study all the housing options available to freshmen and make an informed choice as to what works best for you. A single, a double, a triple, private bathroom, an ensuite, a shared one. It's equally important to begin planning your curriculum. You'll want to know which classes you're taking, especially in freshman year, so you can make sure you sign up for them and get them as soon as they become available. Just like rooms, attendance for classes is often first come, first serve, and students who are prepared get their choice. Now, when it comes to the summer, here's my advice. Current seniors, you've got a chance to pass the torch. Students who are currently in 10th or 11th grade, sophomores or juniors in your clubs or extracurricular activities, give them a bit of mentorship. This is a good time to help them make sure they make a strong start in leading in their upcoming 2025 senior year. Now, aside from that, my advice is this. Keep busy during your summer. Work to earn some money. Continue your independent projects, like if you've got a research project or an internship. participate in summer programs, and hopefully, in between it all, you'll find some time to relax too. After all, this is going to be your last summer as a high school student, living with your parents before you move out to college, and everything changes then. But I might be getting ahead of myself. Maybe you're one of those seniors who's not sure if they're ready yet. Maybe you're thinking about deferring your acceptance for 1 year and enjoying a gap year before you become a college freshman. So I've got a funny cartoon on the right that describes this phenomena. It keys into a common anxiety for parents. On the one hand, they want to make sure their kids are ready to leave the nest. On the other hand, most have some reservations. They know their children need structure and community to stay on the right path. Taking a year to travel around the internet is probably not going to turn out terribly productive because most 18-year-olds aren't ready to plan out how to spend an entire year of their time outside of school. My advice for students taking a gap year: create a plan. How will you spend your time? What do you hope to accomplish? What are you getting done every month? What does your schedule look like on a day to day basis? Answering questions like these can make the difference between an unproductive gap year and a productive one. I'll also remind everyone that it's important to notify your universities by May 1st, the matriculation deadline, even if you're planning on deferring or taking a gap year. The simple truth is, there's one date at which you need to let universities know what your plans are, and if you don't, you might lose some important chances. In terms of how to spend a gap year, the biggest single variable that most students identify as a reason for a gap year is to become more independent. And I think this is a great goal, but I think it's worth adding on some other ancillary goals to make sure you're making the most of that year. Work, found an organization, do an internship, perform research, volunteer, consider traveling, and if you've got athletic or artistic pursuits that your college time might detract from, that would be a great time to explore them. Big picture, you want to balance preparing for college with enjoying the cusp of adulthood. It's important to have structure, like work or an internship or research or volunteering, and also get into stuff that makes you happy and enjoy your last hurrah being a kid. On the other hand, maybe you're in the opposite position. Maybe you would love to be attending college this year, but you're waitlisted. Let's talk about how to deal with that. The first thing I say to all students I hear who are rejected or waitlisted is that it's okay to take some time to process. Very often, this feels personal. You tried your best, you sent in a great application full of an essay you spent hours writing, and yet the university didn't choose to accept you. The most pragmatic advice is to look for other options for colleges, but some students will want to take a strategy to help them go from being on the wait list to being in the applicant pool. Now, the chance of happening is dependent on enrollment management. Universities admitting more students than will actually attend. Universities use waitlists to guess at the number of students who might be their second tier who are in reserve if all the students they admitted don't decide to matriculate at that school. But that doesn't always mean that space on the waitlist can equate to a space in the university. If you look at the data on the right, about 4,000 Rice students were waitlisted last year. 3,000 accepted their spot on the waitlist, but not a single one was actually admitted. The harsh truth is, sometimes you can get off waitlists with meaningful effort, but other times, that's the way the cookie crumbles. For those times where your effort does mean something, where it can help you get off a waitlist and into an undergraduate student body, let's talk about what to do. There's something called an LOCI, a letter of continued interest. It helps if you're deferred from early decision to regular decision, if you've accomplished more in 2024 than you had reported when you sent in your application at the end of 2023. It also helps if you're on a wait list or if you feel you've been rejected unfairly. Its main purpose is to reiterate your desire to attend and help admissions officers visualize your chance of going to their university. Let's go through this in detail because I want to make sure everyone understands the steps. First thing you've got to do is confirm your spot on the wait list. After that, you start drafting this LOCI, letter of continued interest, but you still need to accept a place at another university by May 1st. After all, you wouldn't want to be left high and dry without any universities that you've been accepted to. My next piece of advice is to look into the common data set that's available for free via Google to check the admit rate off of the wait list for the universities you're applying to. Maybe you'll be in a situation like Rice last year where there's not a lot of chance of getting off the wait list, but maybe you'll be like Baylor or Michigan, accepting a couple hundred to even over 1,000 students from the waitlist. When you're writing your LOCI, your letter of continued interest, this is your time to provide an update on any major accomplishments, like scholarships, awards, an increase in your GPA, publications of your research, as well as your chance to request your counselor do an advocacy call, where they call up the university's admissions office and sell them on admitting you as a student off the waitlist. But you shouldn't call the university yourself, and you shouldn't send letters or emails outside of the LOCI. Universities have a defined waitlist process, and bucking this process tends to lead to negative conclusions. So, to lay it out for you as a flowchart, you're going to send in your LOCI with any extracurricular accomplishments, increases to your grades, new test scores, as well as the change details, like if you decided you wanted to pursue a different major or even a whole different college. Sometimes parents ask me, well, Sasha, what is a meaningful change here? And my answer is if your SAT increases by at least 30 points, your ACT increases by at least 1 point, or your GPA on a 4.0 scale increases by 0.1 points, that's meaningful. Anything less than that, like a 10-point SAT increase, or a fractional ACT increase, or a 0.05 increase to your GPA, is probably too small for admissions offices to take note of, even in an LOCI. Letters of continued interest get uploaded to your applicant portal. Every time you apply to university, they'll email you a link to a portal, and it's that portal you're going to use to upload any additional documents, including the LOCI. Remember, even though you're sent in your undergraduate applications to Common App, you don't use Common App to submit further communications like the letter of continued interest with the university. That's through the private portal the university sends you via email. When it comes to writing them, here's my tips. This is a formal document that shouldn't sound stilted. Get straight to the point. Give all the relevant details. This includes other connections you've made with the university you're applying to, contact with individuals, alumni, student groups, faculty, staff. It'll help to explain how these interactions have enhanced your desire to attend and help you envision your landing pad of the activities you'll take at that university once you're accepted. It's also critical to indicate a continued desire to attend this school and to provide examples of why you're a good fit based on your achievements and desires. This should clearly make the university understand they're your first choice school. If they're not feeling excited, you're not reaching your goal. If you're accepted off the waitlist, you'll know the university will send you an email. Accept it as quick as possible. You don't want that waitlist spot to go to anyone else. You'll probably have to reject another school that you previously put down a deposit at, which means losing $500, but it's a small price to pay. After all, you're into the school you really wanted to go to. Now you've got to get to the business I discussed earlier in this presentation, namely secure housing and start making a list of the courses that you want to take for your first year at university. Now, I've got a QR code up on the top right to answer a lot of the common questions I get from parents. I encourage everybody to take a moment and scan it because I think there's a lot you can learn about great LOCIs. Once everybody's had a moment to look through this, I'm going to move on to my next topic, always a popular one. It's about financial aid and some last minute tips I've got. Financial aid letters aren't easy to read. They're often pretty poorly written, maybe to disguise the scope of the award. Your job as a parent is to be able to read these and break down the type of aid your child's being given. Is it a grant, that's money that you don't have to pay back, or a loan, money that you do have to pay back? If it's a loan, is it direct, like from the federal government? Is it subsidized through a private program through which Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, federal government, FAFSA, CSS participate? Or is it unsubsidized, like any other unsecured loan? In general, grants are going to be by far the best form of financial aid. There's nothing quite like graduating college debt-free. But if you must take out loans, it's worth considering direct loans from the federal government as well as subsidized loans. My professional recommendation is to avoid unsubsidized loans. Loans that come from private banking institutions without the intervention of the federal government exist mostly to make banks money, and they do that at your expense. While private, unsubsidized loans can help with education, they should always be your last resort. Now, there's one more type of aid I want to address, and it's called work study. Work study means that the federal government, in combination with the university, is going to give you a job on campus. This job will pay well, a little better than the average college job, and it'll be a little easier than the average college job. It certainly won't get in the way of the time you need to study. It's also a great opportunity to become more of a campus community member, to integrate with other students, and it can even be a little bit fun. Some schools will cap the number of hours you can work, but others won't. Now, this isn't an immediate source of aid. Think of it like a leg up for a great job. I encourage all students who've got the opportunity to do at least a little bit of work study. It never hurts to work a bit in college, and work study won't detract from your studies like employment in a private institution might. It also pays well, and it'll help you feel like a member of campus, like you're part of the community. You might even get a fun job, maybe working in the sports department or helping people find stuff in the library. But of course, in addition to institutional aid, it's worth talking about scholarships. Some scholarships are only open to current college students. Each university's financial aid website will have a section for students who are currently enrolled. Most of these scholarships will be gated by GPA minimums, and many of them will be gated by SAT or ACT scores as well. There's a strong positive correlation between a stronger GPA, stronger SAT or ACT, and more financial aid. And I'm going to show you more details in just a second. Before I do, I want to talk about how to effectively search for these scholarships. My recommendation is that you create a list of all the attributes that you got that might be scholarship worthy. Your major, your heritage, your interest in sports, your extracurriculars, your geographic location, and then use those as the basis for a scholarship search on the following websites: collegeboard.org, scholarships.com, niche.com, and scholarships 360. Due dates for all the scholarships vary, but most of them require something like an essay, a short application form, and maybe a letter of recommendation. In general, these are very high ROI, return on investment activities. For the cost of just an hour or two of your time, you might get hundreds or even thousands of dollars in merit aid. So it's almost always a good idea to apply for these scholarships when you can find them on those above websites. But these websites aren't the end-all and be-all of where you might get scholarships from. Some universities are better at giving scholarships than others. Nationally, most notably, University of Alabama, College of the Ozarks, Clark and Hollins University are great for merit aid. But even here in Texas, Austin, Southwest, UT Dallas, SMU, Texas Wesleyan, as well as Texas Christian are fantastic sources of undergraduate funding. Now, our two flagship public schools, the University of Texas Austin and Texas A&M, still offer pretty good scholarships. But if it's been more than a decade since you attended college, you might be in for a rough surprise. Aid awards at both of these institutions have been cut by 25 to 33% over the last decade, and on average are notably smaller than they were even before the 20% inflation that we've seen over the last 4 years. So, there's a general trend here. Some universities will be better at offering scholarships than others, some will have fewer scholarship opportunities, but all of them are more willing to offer scholarships to students who excel. One way you can show you excel is to participate in an honors college, a special program that marks you out as an elite group of students within the university who all band together. In addition to privileged access towards faculty, office hours, and research opportunities, funding for study abroad, these programs also tend to have scholarships and fee-reduced housing and board, such that students who participate in these honors programs can live in a smaller community in which they know everybody and have an easier time affording college. These are generally more selective programs. They'll require another layer of application, and they'll often be substantially more competitive than the university in general. For example, UT Austin has a general admit rate of about 25%, but their honors colleges have admit rates between 11 and 18%, substantially less. Even still, it never hurts to take the shot, and if you do get into an honors college, you've got both financial aid options as well as enhanced academic rigor. A lot to be grateful for. When it comes to merit aid, you'll find the vast majority of merit-based aid based not on how much money you need to attend college, but on how well you performed, will come from federal loans and college-based grants. There's some small independent scholarships, most of which are looking for a specific ethnic or major background, and then just restricting that based on pre-existing SAT or GPA. But for the vast majority of merit scholarships, you're looking to quantify personal traits and then find an organization that's willing to sponsor those traits and provide scholarship money. Most applications are due November to June, but it's important to keep an eye out all throughout the year. New scholarships, new endowments are always being created, and it never hurts to keep your eye on the ball. Now, a little earlier, I promised to run you through some numbers relating to financial aid, and here's my first, biggest, most important point. When it comes to merit aid, your chances of receiving merit aid go up radically with higher grades. This is even more true at private nonprofit four-year universities than public universities. Most private universities will offer more merit aid, have larger endowments, and are more willing to reduce the tuition of students who look like they'd be a great fit at their program. The same is roughly true for the SAT. If your SAT scores are higher, you're more likely to receive merit aid. This is especially true in private universities because SATs affect private school rankings more than they affect public school rankings. Now, there's another couple variables I want everyone to be aware of. Something called academic rigor, meaning the challenge of the courses you're taking. Think about the difference in level of challenge, for example, between Algebra 1 and Algebra 2, or Algebra 2 and Calculus. There's a strong positive correlation where the further you go in math, the more merit aid you're likely to receive. This is especially the case for students who are taking AP, advanced placement, or college-level courses while in high school. The more you challenge yourself, the higher your SAT, the higher your grades, the more likely you are to get merit scholarships. Finally, with regard to ethnicity, you'll notice that white students are substantially more likely to receive merit grants than Black or African American, Hispanic or Latino, or Asian students. Oh, and one more thing to add. Your chances of merit aid are actually positively correlated with family income. This might seem a little funny to some of our audience. After all, shouldn't students whose families have less money receive more aid? But the point to merit-based aid is that it's based off of academic performance, and academic performance is directly correlated to family income. So, students from higher income families generally perform better and get more aid. In fact, this has become a kind of strategy, a little bit of a game between lots of students applying to universities and the university's financial aid departments. Universities will often use financial aid, specifically merit aid, to attract students who might not otherwise attend. This process is called enrollment management. In general, you'll see this most with small private universities that are generally open to bargaining. If they ask for, let's say, you to pay 50% of your tuition and offer to pay the other 50% themselves between the university, FAFSA, and other scholarships, you might be able to come back to them and say, what if we pay 40% and you guys pay 60%? Now, this isn't going to be the case with larger public colleges like UT Austin or A&M. They'll award merit aid based on a pre-existing formula, and they won't have much flexibility for bargaining. Top private colleges, like the Ivy Leagues, often will grant the most aid that is need-based for students who wouldn't otherwise be able to attend, but will very rarely grant merit aid. After all, large prestigious private universities like Harvard or Stanford don't need to negotiate with students in order to get great students at their institution. Now, I'm going to take a brief aside to talk about something very near and dear to my heart. Part of Ivy Scholars' collaboration with Catalyst Collective is a $20,000 scholarship, which involves 1 hour per month of college admissions counseling from August 2024 until the August of the student's senior year, and double that, 2 hours per month of college admissions coaching from September through March of the student's senior year. This scholarship is open to all students from freshmen to seniors, and I think it's a fantastic opportunity to have experts overview your curriculum, how you plan your summer programs, the internships and universities you might select to apply to, how you write your essays and create your application strategy, as well as the interviews you're preparing for. You can see the link both at the bottom right of this page in the QR code, and I'll disappear for a second so anybody who wants to can scan that, as well as in the link on the left, ivscholars.com/Laurel Scholars. Ladies, gentlemen, if you know a deserving young man or woman in the state of Texas who belongs to Catalyst Collective, I strongly encourage you, scan that QR code, put their name in, mention they're from Catalyst Collective, and my hope is by July 31st of 2024, Ivy Scholars is going to be welcoming new students from Catalyst Collective into our scholarship program for an amazing college counseling experience. This experience covers everything Ivy Scholars does, helping students build their candidacy for college, preparing them for standardized tests like the SAT and ACT, planning, advising on essays, preparing for interviews, and then making sure students have matriculated effectively, selected the right classes, and are ready to make a strong start in university. We've had some pretty notable successes here. Ivy Scholar students have earned literally millions of dollars of scholarships and been accepted at every top tier school you can think of. In fact, there's not a school in the top 50 anymore where there aren't Ivy Scholar students. Our three students who most recently were accepted to via the Laurel Scholars Program respectively went to Harvard, Columbia, and Georgetown. I'd love to see another member of the Catalyst community join their ranks. So that's what I've got to say about our scholarship. Let's talk about making the most of college visits. Visiting campus is supposed to be fun, and I hope you enjoy it. It's also got quite a few other details worth taking account of. I treat this in part as a road trip or mini vacation, but also in part as a kind of interview in which the student, and ideally their parents, are arriving at a college ready to see if they're going to be happy spending the next 4 years of their life there. Most schools will have dedicated centers welcoming visiting students, like a prospective student center. These will also host college tours, both in person and virtually. And guys, as convenient as it is to do stuff over Zoom, I love in-person college visits. There's nothing that'll teach you the vibe of a campus like walking around, seeing who's smiling, who's working hard, who's interested, who's passionate. My advice when you're college bound, getting ready for a college visit, is to make a plan. Know who you want to visit, where you're going to spend your time, and what questions you want to answer. I also advise you to be parsimonious here. You wouldn't want to overfill a visit or do too many in a row. Things might blur together. Instead, you'll want to make a list of key points of what you want to see, schedule an official tour if the university has one available, make sure to visit the neighborhood around the school in which you might live, as well as a school, and then visit schools of multiple different types, big ones, small ones, public ones, private ones. In terms of timing, spring of junior year is the best time to go on a college visit, especially during spring break. Of course, this also means that during spring break, most universities will be pretty crowded with high school students visiting. So, if you've got an unusual schedule or a chance to take a long weekend and visit then, it's worth taking it. It's important to go on a weekday. You're going to want to see the university as it lives and breathes with school in session. You wouldn't want to go sometime like Christmas or Thanksgiving, where almost everyone will be gone, and it won't give you a very representative view of what life in the university is really going to be like. Similarly, finals are probably a bad time to visit. Everybody's going to be stressed and focused on other things, and you won't get a real sense of the vibe of the university. And when you're visiting, pick your time, contact the admissions office, create your plan out which colleges you're visiting, making sure that you're allotting enough time for each but not overwhelming yourself. Look for opportunities to connect with departments, professors, students, and alumni, and then check if your university recognizes demonstrated interest. Demonstrated interest is a quality that means a university will increase your chance of admission if you visit or build relationships with the school. When this is the case, it's important to make sure you're meeting people, engaging in activities, doing stuff, so that when you're at the campus, you're not just learning about what life might be like if you're accepted, you're also increasing your chances of going. Now, last piece of advice on this slide, guys, eat in the campus dining hall. It's going to be your main source of chow for 4 years. You might as well get used to what the taste of college will be like. And if you find it's not to your liking, well, better know earlier rather than later, right? Now, when it comes to the day of college visits, bring something to take notes, ideally a notepad and pen or pencil, although digital devices, iPads, phones could work too. It's also important to wear the right clothing. Lots of universities in the Northeast are pretty cold, way colder than it gets on a normal basis in Texas. Bring a water bottle, you'll get thirsty, as well as some good walking shoes. You'll probably add at least 1 mile, maybe even 3. Whenever you've got students who are willing to speak to you about life at the university would be like, strike up a conversation. Learn about student life, about culture, about the vibe. When it comes to demonstrating interest effectively, my advice is that the magic of enrollment management is that universities want to know which students are most likely to accept their acceptance. Universities want to make sure if they're accepting you to their school that you're likely to matriculate. The more you can spend time, build relationships, convince them that you're the real deal and you really want to go to their school, not just because it's got great rankings or because it offers your major, but because it feels like home and you'll be happy there, the stronger your chances of being admitted will be. In terms of demonstrating interest, in addition to visiting the school, open their emails. All schools will be able to track which emails you open and how long you spend on the webpage. Apply early decision or early action to indicate this school is among your top choices. Visit their booth whenever they hold a college fair, either at your school or at a local public event. Those are all across Houston, Austin, Dallas, and pretty well represented in lots of smaller towns in Texas too. And finally, you'll want to make campus contacts. Make sure you're talking to the kind of people, professors, students who can help you figure out what life at your new university is going to be like. So, guys, that's my advice on building relationships with universities. But before we get there, we still need to talk about what needs to happen with the summer. Now, I call this last chance summer programs because summer programs officially open around December, January. So lots of students might feel like they're a little late, but summer programs are still open and they're tremendously impactful on your college admission chances. If you look at the chart to the right, there's a clear correlation between improved academic performance in both math and verbal sections of the SAT and participation in summer programs like Duke TIP, Talent Identification Program. These give universities confidence that you like learning even when you're not legally required to be in school. They're a good idea no matter what. If you're in 9th to 11th grade, you build candidacy, show universities your passion for learning. If you're in 12th grade, you can prepare for college, make sure that none of those tough classes in freshman year will knock you down a grade level or two. I'd say the most notable summer programs in the state of Texas are Anson Scholars at Texas Tech and the MD Anderson High School Summer Scholars for students who are graduating as seniors. I think both of these are amazing opportunities for students to pursue scientific research, especially medical research, and get to know the skill set they'll need to be a successful college student and make the world a better place. If you're not sure how to find great summer programs, I'd be happy to help you here. I've actually already vetted the best 100-ish in Houston, and I'm going to have a QR code with them in a few more slides. In terms of your timeline, generally these open around November, December. Applications due January and March. Get admissions decision back between March and May, and the programs themselves take place May, June, July, August. In this case, there's still some programs that are open in March. It'll even be open in April. I strongly encourage you, if you're not sure what your child's doing between here and September, look into some summer programs and see if maybe they'd be a good fit. In terms of picking the right program for you, you want something that adds to your candidacy, that shows your passion for a subject, that helps you learn something new. It's also important to understand the reputation and the brand of these programs. Some are going to be like pre-college courses. These are often held at fairly prestigious universities, Brown or Stanford or UT Austin. Some of them will grant college credit, some won't. The bottom line when you're picking a program is to make sure you understand what you're getting credit for, what you're required to do, how long it takes, how universities view this program, and ultimately, how much benefit you can draw from it. Here's some specific variables worth analyzing. Geographic location, if the program is residential, where you live there, or commuter, where you drive there, or online, where you attend via Zoom. If it offers college credit or high school credit, what its acceptance rate is, what its application requirements are, GPA, transcripts, high school. If it participates in an affirmative action program promoting a specific gender or ethnic background, as well as its dates, lengths, its time commitment, and its cost. My recommendation on summer programs: consider an independent research project or an online course. Udemy, Coursera, edX are all great options. Consider a summer job or an internship. Anything is better than nothing. And as long as you're building on your interests, expanding your previous extracurricular experiences, you're forging forward and it'll help both in your university applications and when you apply for jobs. Participating in summer programs demonstrates grit. It looks great on your resume. It leads to cool letters of recommendation. And I think when you earn money, it gives you a little taste of independence, a chance to feel a bit like an adult. And that feeling's only going to get stronger and stronger as you go through college. Certainly, it's a good idea to get started on these things early. And I think the best way to get started is with a research project. Research is the peak of academia. Unlike in high schools, where teachers' jobs to teach, most professors at universities, their job is doing research. They just teach as a side gig. There's over 20 journals in existence that want to publish articles specifically from high school students. And most top universities, Harvard, Yale, Columbia, Brown, in general, they're expecting students to have submitted research in order to be serious candidates. I've got a giant list for you, and I'll disappear for a second so everyone's able to read this just fine. This is a list of high school research journals of all disciplines, from social sciences, technology, engineering, medicine, humanities, even poetry and economics. I think it's very worth taking a look at this list of publication venues and seeing if there's any topic and any venue that matches up to that topic in which you could express your intellectual vitality through a research project. Now, picking the right program, the right research venue, is about understanding impact factors. Impact factors are a summary of how many times a journal is cited by other scientists in one year. A journal with an impact factor of 0 might never be mentioned. A journal with a high impact factor, 10, 20, 30, 40, even 50, is probably mentioned thousands, 10,000s, even hundreds of thousands of times. The sweet spot for most high school students is an impact factor between 2 and 7. Although some high school journals, especially ones that are less competitive, don't have an impact factor at all. When it comes to structuring your research project, start with a great question, something that hasn't been asked before, something narrow enough for you to investigate. Avoid overbroad or philosophical questions. Make sure that you're selecting something that you know you can get data on, analyze that data, and then present those findings meaningfully. Data means hard numbers. You can either gather that experimentally or draw from publicly available data sets. When you're analyzing, I mean you're figuring out what the data you've gathered means in relation to the research question you're asking. Once you've got an answer to that, it's your job to sit up for a presentation. Maybe it'll be a poster board, maybe it'll be a paper, but you'll be sharing the results of your research with others in your field to add to the store of global knowledge. While not all students will do this, research is probably the single point of candidacy that has the biggest chance of making a difference in admission to a top tier or even top 50 university in the US. So I hear from parents, hey, Sasha, how am I supposed to actually make sure my child does research effectively? I mean, isn't this pretty hard? And the answer is yes, definitely. In order to do research that's publishable, that'll be recognized by an official body, you'll probably want a mentor. Part of Ivy Scholar's job is providing amazing research mentors in fields as diverse as computer science, neuroscience, medicine, economics, genetics, psychology, and making sure our mentors are ready to help students ideate, source effective data, identify a publication venue, perform research, do the analysis, write the exposition, edit their paper for submission, and then get it through the entire process so they end up smiling, just like the people on this screen, at the end of the year. Now, I'd like to brag a little. Just 2 weeks ago, I was at the Rice Biosciences Research Collective with 4 Ivy Scholar students, each of whom were presenting their poster board, one of whom was recognized by Rice University with honors for extraordinary research. I think there's going to be multiple Ivy Scholar students doing the same this year, presenting their research at different venues, both at Rice University in Houston and all across the country. If you're interested in your child attending a top 50 university, I strongly encourage you, look for great research mentors, the kind of people who can help your child create a project that will impress universities and increase their chance of admission to the university they want to attend. Now, that's what I've got to say about research. Before we finish up, a little bit about the biggest upcoming exams, AP exams. AP stands for Advanced Placement. It means the classes that offer both high school and college credit. These have become increasingly popular over the last 2 decades. In general, AP classes are an incredible return on the time you invested. Unlike semesters in college, which might cost thousands or even tens of thousands of dollars, an AP exam is only $99, which means 5 AP exams, 5 classes, $500 would be the equivalent in value of a full semester of college. These are big, tough, complex exams, and you'll need to start preparing months in advance, learning material through homework and tests, and reviewing through the year. AP exams are very strongly correlated with admission to selective universities. 85% of universities consider college prep and academic rigor, that is, taking advanced placement tests, of considerable importance. Only grades and standardized test scores are meaningfully more important. Now, there's a lot of different systems here, so to disambiguate, there's the AP system, Advanced Placement through College Board. There's the IB, International Baccalaureate System. That's through major international schools like Auty or Village. There's also a dual credit system in which students can enroll in Texan universities like Sam Houston or Wharton Junior College or Texas A&M or UT Austin. All three of these systems are equally legitimate and valid. All three of them offer students an opportunity to get multiple credits both at the high school and college level, increase their academic rigor, and increase their chance of admission. It's important when students take these classes to challenge themselves without jeopardizing their GPA. You don't want to overcompensate and then end up taking classes that are so hard you can't maintain good grades. But to the extent you can take a more challenging course load than other students at your school, universities will respect that. While they won't penalize you if your school doesn't offer a lot of advanced classes, they always appreciate the advanced classes you take when they are available. Most AP exams are graded on a scale of 1 to 5, with a 3 being a pass and a 4 or 5 being a higher pass. Every university will grant credit on AP scores differently, so it's important to check each university's unique policy on AP tests. Finally, it's worthwhile to study which classes in university are going to be meaningful for you. For example, if you're going to be a pre-medical student, AP biology and AP chemistry are probably great picks for you. After all, you're going to have a lot of biology and chemistry in your pre-med courses. Probably less so with things like AP world history or AP microeconomics. Those are fun classes, but just less relevant for a major. When you're studying for AP exams, it's important to find a method that works for you. In general, doing is better than simply reviewing. I encourage students to actively review their notes, mix in short breaks with longer study sessions so their minds stay fresh, and review over the long term instead of cramming for better retention. Now, I want to toot our own horn one more time with regard to the Ivy Scholars Scholarship. I'd like everyone to take a moment to scan the QR code at the bottom right-hand side of the screen if you know a deserving young person who could benefit from a $20,000 value scholarship, a scholarship that would involve college application coaching all the way through March of the student's senior year. You've got until July 31st to go to the website and nominate a student for the Laurel Scholars Scholarship. Now, ladies and gentlemen, that's most of what I got to talk about for today. April 7th, 5 p.m. Central Time, we're going to have another Catalyst seminar covering finalizing college decisions, exploring your gap year options, community college pathways, athletic recruitment, and summer activities. Now, before I go, I've seen some wonderful questions get put into the chat, and I'm going to take a moment now to answer all of them. Let me look for my very first one. First one. Can we find why my child was turned down from the university at which he wanted to matriculate before we write a letter of continued interest? The answer here differs. Universities within the top 100 tend to have very busy admissions departments that don't want to take extra time to meet with students. In this case, the answer is probably no. UT Austin, Texas A&M are unlikely to communicate with you about why they turned your child down. Nonetheless, it never hurts to ask. Universities outside the top 100, like Sam Houston, or the University of Houston, or Austin College, are much friendlier. If you call their admissions office, they'll often give you a straight answer, and that can inform how you draft your letter to shore up any weaknesses they saw in the original application. Another question I've received is, why is FAFSA having so many issues this year? Guys, I love America, but our government is not great at creating government websites. The FAFSA website was supposed to be ready 4 months ago, like before 2024 started. It has continually dragged on from January through February through March with tremendous issues. Sometimes data is not saved, sometimes data is stored in the wrong way. Sometimes you might spend an hour entering a lot of tax information to make sure your child's able to qualify for scholarships, only to have it all wiped out when the site resets. My hope is that this new FAFSA website is going to have its kinks worked out over the 2024 application year. So for 2025 onwards, there'll be far fewer concerns about FAFSA. But for this year, many schools have extended their deadlines past May 1st onto June 1st or even further so that students can apply to FAFSA, get their scholarships, and make an educated decision on which university they want to attend. Two more worthwhile questions. One's about the criteria for the Laurel Scholars Scholarships. We've got a full rubric of criteria on the Laurel Scholars website. In short, we're looking for intellectual vitality, students who are independently curious, who perform outside a structured classroom environment, students who really want to grow and learn and excel, the kind of students who'd be a good fit for a top university. We also want to make sure these students have strong to moderate GPAs, SATs or ACT scores, recommendations from at least one up to two teachers, as well as a sense of leadership and responsibility for improving their community. So, students who are intellectually vital, who take initiative, who have great grades, great test scores, who are leaders, who want to improve their community, those are the best students to be Laurel Scholars. Ladies and gentlemen, I think that's all the questions I've got for today. I'm going to give everyone a moment in case you want to ask me any more questions, and then I'm going to bid you a happy Sunday. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining our meeting. It has been wonderful to give you this seminar. I hope it's helpful. I hope it educates you. I hope it helps you make a difference in a young person's life with that Laurel Scholars Scholarship. My name's Sasha Chada. My mission at Ivy Scholars is making sure students get an amazing college education. And thank you for being a part of that for the last 40 minutes. Adios, amigos.